right, this was bad. Okay, this was bad. This was bad because of the running game, the passing game, the run defense, the pass defense, the ability to miss tackles, the ability to make tackles, the ability to be clutch, the ability to make a kickoff when it's needed. Yikes. Good morning to you. Good Sunday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is a special episode of Daily Shot of Steelers, which usually comes your way bright and early every weekday. But today comes after the Ravens beat the Steelers, and I mean beat them 34-17. Yes, I know there were points where it could have pivoted in one direction or another. Yes, I know that it became tied and Minkah Fitzpatrick made his first interception in forever, and it didn't matter. None of it mattered because none of it went well. And in particular, and I had mentioned this to you beforehand, if the Steelers were not going to stop Derrick Henry, there was not going to be a football game, regardless of anything else that would unfold. And that's what happened. I didn't think it would happen. I thought that if it happened, it would be really bad. Well, it happened. 162 yards on the ground for Henry. There's nowhere to run or hide from that. There's no way to circumvent that. That is the loss. That is what causes the loss. Mike Tomlin stated as much in the bluntest possible terms.
Really specifically, we didn't control the run game. We never did. And when you don't, man, you got to do some splash plays or win the turnover battle in a significant way, and we didn't do that either.
I told you a week ago from Philadelphia there were some things in the loss to the Eagles that I liked. There was almost nothing in this one that I liked. It was the wrong time for a performance like this. It was the wrong place for a performance like this. And I'm not about to get into any kind of excuses like the Steelers being without 4 starters, 3 of those in the defensive secondary. That's just part of football. The Ravens were missing guys too. Bad, 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 and bad. Rechecking all those same boxes all over again. Now, let's talk about moving past it, because that's all there is. As Pat Freiermuth said afterward, everything's in front of us. And he's technically correct, not just philosophically correct, because the Steelers still have within their control winning the AFC North. What they have to do is they have to beat the Chiefs and they have to beat the Bengals. Now, that's not the only ways in which they can win the AFC North, but if they do those 2 things, it doesn't matter what the Ravens do. The Ravens, by the way, are also playing on Christmas, and they have to travel to Houston to do so against a pretty good group of Texans. So nothing's hopeless, to say the least. And okay, if you want to know the one thing that I did like, other than I thought Calvin Austin put in a really nice performance in general, and there was some stuff that Russell Wilson did well, but you can't mention Russ without not sliding, and then the fumble, and then the pick 6, right? Okay, so there was Cal, and then there was also that these guys were legitimately ticked off. Now, I've covered sports long enough to know the difference between being legitimately ticked off and being faux ticked off, meaning we can't believe we lost to this one. We're so upset, and it's not really all the way there. You know, and sometimes maybe you can sense that even from afar in some post-game interviews where it just sounds kind of a little too over the top for you. That wasn't this. This room was in bad shape. Players were angry. They were angry with themselves, first and foremost. I got the sense that there might have even been some anger with each other, with all the multiple references to accountability and players being out of position. And they even got angry with a couple of types in the media. Not me, and no, that's not why I'm bringing it up. Most of the interview sessions, whether they were done in a group setting or one-on-one, were really brief, really curt. This, for example, was my one-on-one with the nicest kid in the room, Zach Frazier. asking him nothing more than how hard this one was to take.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get it done. It sucks. It's a terrible feeling, honestly. It really just comes down to all of us. We have to play together, finish plays. We just all have to be better.
Well, good. Be mad. Do something about it. Figure out how all those tackles were missed. Figure out how all that gap integrity got blown up. Figure out how the one player that you schemed the most against, meaning, of course, Henry, was able to single-handedly wreck you. That obviously doesn't just go for the athletes. The coaches, wow, between Terrell Austin and Arthur Smith, there's a lot of mirror gazing to be done there as well, and I'm certain that would apply to Tomlin as well. Bad day. But again, remember what Freiermuth said, everything is still in front of this team. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Greg in West Mifflin, who says, hey, DK, what are the casual fans missing when assessing a player's worth to earn a spot in the lineup? Scotty Miller, for example, doesn't get a helmet most weeks, yet he was on the field for the opening play in Baltimore. On the pick six by Russell Wilson, Russ was throwing the ball to Michael Pruitt. Why not put your best players in the best position for success on the field at all times? I have a hard time believing that's Miller and Pruitt, but am I wrong in my assessment? No, of course you're not wrong, Greg. And the reason I laughed halfway through reading your question here is that I say the same thing 100 times a game. If I were to pick on one trait of Arthur Smith's that I like the least, and I think he's mostly done good work, as unpopular as that'll be to share with anybody this morning, it's that he has Pat Freiermuth, but he throws to Pruitt. He has Pat Freiermuth, but he throws to Connor Hayward. He has Pat Freiermuth, but he throws to everybody other than Freiermuth, even when George Pickens is out. I can't shake that halfway through the third quarter of this airtight game that Freiermuth had one catch on one target for 5 yards. He wasn't even being utilized. Now, if you want to point to Pruitt's touchdown, you can do that. Go nuts. He actually made a pretty nice play there and managed to keep his feet in bounds, corralled the ball, did a nice job. Yay him, okay? He's not the one that's supposed to be getting fed. And it's not as if the Ravens did something special to take 88 away. They just flat out didn't. It's maddening to watch this. I would say something similar about the running backs, except that we did see Jaylen Warren take on a bigger role than Najee Harris in this game for the first time. I'm going to do nothing but applaud that. But it almost feels like Smith is trying to out-clever himself, where, they'll never think that it's going to this guy. Well, yeah, there's a reason for that. There's a reason that they're actually going to be okay with you trying to throw it to this guy. And I'm sorry, but I can't, Greg, end today's program by leaving Smith as the last target when Terrell Austin, who's somebody that we seldom, criticize or ever even really talk about, because I think there's a general perception that wouldn't be very far off that Mike Tomlin is the de facto defensive coordinator. But when you're faced with a singular challenge that's the worst kept secret in all of football, which is you're facing the team that has Derrick Henry on it, so you have to stop Henry, because there is no cure for the game in which you do not stop Henry. And then you don't stop him? and then you don't adjust to it. And then the head coach afterward talks about missed tackles and gap integrity, and all of those things were accurate, but nothing was modified. Minkah Fitzpatrick moved a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. That was it. Minkah made some plays there too, in addition to his interception. Good for him. But you didn't see like, hey, let's just put people in the box and let's just force Lamar to throw, because every time we've done that in the past, Lamar's beaten himself against the Steelers. He has. And he might have been on the road to doing that again, given that awful interception that he threw from his perspective that Minkah picked off. But nothing happened. Why? Because nothing's happened all season in that regard. Well, we can't move people up to the line of scrimmage. We're the Steelers. We don't do that. We don't blitz anymore. We're the Steelers. We just come at you with our main 4 guys, 5 guys up front, and everybody else drops into coverage, and that's just who we are, and that's how we're going to do things. And what happens to you? What happens to you is that Russell Wilson almost gets this massive touchdown, doesn't slide, fumbles the ball away, but it's okay because the Ravens have the ball at their own 4-yard line. 96 yards later, there's no adjustment to this. 3 hours after the opening kickoff, there's no adjustment to this. So I'm doing this on purpose, Greg, because I didn't want to just end with one coordinator and not mention the other. They both had bad days. The players had bad days almost without exception. And the team had a bad day. Now, there's another game on Wednesday, and maybe for the first time, everybody's going to be kind of happy that it's not something that you have to wait the full 7 days for. I appreciate the question, Greg. I appreciate hearing from all you guys. And boy, do you guys send stuff during games, too. You send me temperamental stuff during games. Don't do that. Don't do that. Be like Greg. Hang on until after it's done and get philosophical about it. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow.